We have breaking news to share in today's video, which is really about the fact that if you have followed the cryptocurrency world, Bitcoin has now officially reached and surpassed a value of $100,000. This is massive breaking news, and the big reason why is that if you have been following the cryptocurrency world for the last several years, every single year they have been trying to predict that Bitcoin was going to reach $100,000. You might have seen this on the news, you might have seen this on YouTube. So many different headlines saying Bitcoin to $100,000. I have heard about this statement since when I followed Bitcoin back in 2017, when Bitcoin was priced at right around $19,000 that year, that a lot of people were saying that back in 2019 and then in 2018 and then 19 and then 20, that Bitcoin was going to hit $100,000. And now about 6 to 7 years later, in 2024, that has now officially come true. Bitcoin has now officially reached a grand value of $100,000. So in today's video, what I really want to talk about is pretty much breaking this news to you guys, sharing a little bit about what this means for Bitcoin in the world of cryptocurrency. I want to give maybe a little bit of a background story to understand where we specifically come from. And I want to also maybe just give some personal insights about my personal opinions about Bitcoin in general, so that if you have watched another video, hopefully there's still something you can take out of this video that's a little bit original, that's a little bit unique, that you can maybe absorb and walk away from as well. So with that being said, let's just get right to this video. But as always, if you guys enjoy videos like this, like, comment, subscribe. We will be making future videos if there are more breaking news that comes out related to crypto, even though we are actually more of a general finance channel. With that being said, consider subscribing, and let's get started. So like you guys just heard the breaking news, which is the fact that Bitcoin has now officially reached $100,000. But the big idea is I want to start this video by maybe giving a little bit of a background story to where we started, so you can understand the foundation to where all this came from, which is essentially the fact that Bitcoin is essentially the first cryptocurrency that was created for about 16 years ago from the release of this video. So this video was released in 2024. It will probably still be relevant, hopefully, if Bitcoin stays at $100,000 or more in 2025 and beyond. But it was created about 16 years ago, back in 2008/2009. And the story with it really was that the fact that because back in May of 2010, I was still a teenager back in that year. It was on the news and reported that someone used Bitcoin to buy 2 slices of pizza from Papa John for specifically 10,000 Bitcoins. Yes, each of those 10,000 Bitcoins are now worth over $100,000. All of those Bitcoins together, the 10,000 Bitcoins at the time period, was worth only about $40 back then. And if that guy who bought those 2 slices of pizza had held on to Bitcoin, he could have turned $40, I repeat, $40 into approximately $1 billion today. Obviously, not a lot of people knew about the power of Bitcoin back in the days, but this is still something that's really, really crazy to really absorb. There are still many ups and downs, obviously, that Bitcoin has had to go through. So, for example, if you look at this graph down right here, you can see that Bitcoin has had a lot of price fluctuations over the last several years. In fact, since its infancy, when it started, ranging from when the Mt. Gox situation happened. If you have been around since 2014 following cryptocurrency, then you probably know about the Mt. Gox situation. Essentially what that was that back in 2014, there was a crypto exchange called Mt. Gox that ended up being hacked. And then so as a result of what happened, Bitcoin's price fell and crashed very, very dramatically. And then flash forward 3 years later, which is when I finally entered in and bought my very first Bitcoin, because I've known about Bitcoin for quite a while now, probably at least 10 years, but I finally bought my first Bitcoin back in 2017. And 2017 was when we had a massive rally and bull run within the world of Bitcoin, having it spike up about 19 folds in a single year. Afterwards, in 2018, Bitcoin specifically had a massive fallout where they crashed very significantly, all the way down from $19,000, taking a lot of other cryptocurrencies with it as well. And it took several years for us to finally bounce back again. And now, flash forward 7 years later in 2024, it has now gone up from just a couple $1,000s to over $100,000, which is really crazy to absorb. In other words, if you had invested $10,000 into Bitcoin back in the day, you could have now 100x your investment and turned $10,000 into over $1 million. You could have literally became a crypto millionaire through this in just several years because of how much it has now officially skyrocketed. Now, I want to maybe talk now and transition to talking a little bit about the future now that you know about the past. So we went from the past to the present to the future. And the future plans right now is that President Donald Trump, long story short, is that he is a very massive fan of Bitcoin. He used to not be a very massive fan of Bitcoin in his early days. He was talking a lot of stuff that he was kind of skeptical about Bitcoin. But today in 2024, and probably likely into 2025, assuming that doesn't change, he is a very massive supporter of Bitcoin. He wants to specifically make America, so in the United States of America, the cryptocurrency capital of the world. He wants to revolutionize Bitcoin, in his own words, and make America where cryptocurrency, specifically where Bitcoin, is just fully adopted and just it's all world power around the world. That is the goal for President Donald Trump. And so if President Donald Trump, or incoming President Donald Trump, because he hasn't, entered the White House yet, but he probably will in the future because he's won the election, the idea is that Bitcoin is expected to skyrocket even further than it already has from where it's currently at right now. Now, in terms of maybe some price predictions, is that at this time period, obviously, we don't know where Bitcoin is going to go in the near future. Nobody does. I know back in 2017, for example, at the very end of 2017, there were a lot of people, and I remember a lot of people over the internet, the news, and just in general real life, that were talking about how Bitcoin was going to hit $100,000 in 2018. And in the end, what ended up happening is that in 2018, it actually crashed and went down very hard from $19,000. And it really never reached $100,000 until 7 years later, which is still a really good achievement. Because again, to take 7 years to at 100x your money, that's massive accomplishment to be able to go up 100 folds in just seven to 8 years. But the price prediction right now is that while it is true that nobody knows the future, now that it has officially reached $100,000, it is very probable to believe that Bitcoin can potentially even hit $200,000 in 2025. This is not to say that it is going to hit $200,000 because, again, it's really important to make clear that nobody knows the future, but that if Bitcoin can 100x in just 7 to 8 years, and if it can 19x back in 2017 in 1 year, then it is very reasonable to think that if Bitcoin can 19x in a single year, it can definitely, most certainly, 2x in a single year. So the price prediction right now is that nobody knows for sure, but $200,000 is not a very unrealistic belief to really think what Bitcoin can achieve, especially right now that it's trying to become the world power under incoming President Donald Trump's reign. This is even more probable than ever to really be able to believe. There is a lot of other things that we can talk about in terms of what President Donald Trump plans to do with Bitcoin. For example, there is something floating outside called the Bitcoin Act right now. We're not going to talk as much about that in today's video just to make it so that this is not an extensively long video. But if you are interested in maybe hearing more about the Bitcoin Act or hearing about Donald Trump's plans for Bitcoin, maybe leave a comment down below. Consider subscribing and hitting the bell so you guys will get updated when that video comes out, if it does end up coming out, of course. But that's really the big thing to cover right now that we have to know about Bitcoin and its future plans. But maybe to end this by just sharing some more personal thoughts about Bitcoin. So this is the part of the video where I don't think a lot of other videos are going to talk about, because it's going to give a little bit of my personal insight to what I think about Bitcoin and its future. And I would probably say is that the biggest number one thing that we really have to work on for Bitcoin right now is not necessarily just to pump the price up super high, even though I know that's all we want, but it's even more true is adoption. The key word is adoption, because right now at this time, Bitcoin, while it is true that people are starting to use it as a way to buy things, to kind of use in just general everyday life, at the very end of the day, most people today still really just see Bitcoin as a form of investment, not necessarily as a form of ways that you can physically buy things off of the internet. People do that today. There are a lot of people that are now starting to buy Bitcoin, but until Bitcoin can become truly popularized, until Bitcoin can truly become used globally around the country and around the world, if anything, I think the biggest issue that we really have to worry about right now is to make sure Bitcoin is as adopted into everyday life as possible. This is going to be obviously a very massive challenge, because unlike a lot of other currencies, Bitcoin is one of the most volatile currencies out there. It's not like, imagine trying to buy something and convert between American dollars and like the Japanese yen or the euro or the Thai baht or the, Chinese yuan. Obviously when you're converting against other currencies, things are a lot more stable, whereas when you're converting with Bitcoin, things are a lot more unstable, because you will see Bitcoin price fluctuate from like $100,000 dropping down to $60,000 to $80,000, and then back up to $100,000, and then maybe crash down to who knows how much money. So the idea really is that the biggest idea really behind and takeaway is that until Bitcoin can find a very steady price range that it can fluctuate between, so it's not like bouncing up and down all day, I think that's going to be the day when Bitcoin truly becomes popularized, and when we will truly see Bitcoin reach its prime numbers. It is still going up right now, so it has not reached its prime or peak. Right now the prime and peak is right around $100,000, but there's still ways to go. There's still ways that it can be adopted, and there's still ways it can become even more popularized than it already is. Of course, what ultimately ends up happening to Bitcoin, we're gonna have to see in one of the future episodes of The Kevin Show. So with that being said, if you guys made it this far, that's pretty much what I wanted to share. Thank you guys so much for watching. As always, if you guys enjoyed that, like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell, especially as we get new videos rolling out, and hope to see you guys next time. Thank you guys so much again.